Well, today we got a flat tire to change. I know how everybody is excited about changing the tire on their car, so I'm no different. First thing we need to do is we're going to be changing this tire here. It's the driver's side rear. So I've engaged the parking brake firmly. It's in park. The engine stopped. I'm going to put chocks in front of the front tires and get those secure as well.
Alright. Okay, so what we got here is a couple of like pseudo chocks. We basically just use concrete water things to kind of use it to hold the car in place while we get the jack out of the back. So really, you can use anything really that could just be put right in front of the car wheel that'll basically stop it from going forward. That's really all you need to do.
This is the jack. That's the chalk if we need it, but we use our homemade concrete chalks. This is a lug wrench handle.
Now, some cars in the back, you actually have to, there's like a knob you actually have to twist to get the wheel off, so go ahead and twist that off. Either way, I'm turning off the audio, that way it's...
Then this whole section comes out. The tire is in upside down, so it'll face down and have more room for storage. And the tires are pretty light. And on this particular vehicle, okay, so this is the jack. This mates up with the portion under the vehicle.
Okay, so at this point you're going to want to definitely take your jack and put it underneath your car and set it to where it needs to be. This particular car has a spot right on it that's specifically made for the jack. Not all cars have this, but this one in particular does. So make sure that that's lined up, and once it is, go ahead and kind of twist the back of it, and that way the jack will start rising up. But only do this just a little bit. And then once it's like that, same thing again, kind of twist it up a little bit more. And that's really all you need to do for right now.
Okay, now we remove the lug nuts. What I usually do is just start the lug nuts to break them free, just with a partial turn. Some of these you may have to stand on because they do get pretty tight. So I secure myself on the vehicle.
Okay, so at this point we're going to go and loosen up the bolts or the nuts on the actual wheel. This will make it so much easier to get the wheel off later on in the process. But for now, go ahead and stop with raising up your jack and just loosen up the bolts. You will probably have to stand on this like we have to do here because these bolts are put on with hydraulic drills and they go on there way tighter, so you're probably going to definitely have to put your weight into it unless you have a hydraulic drill. Then this is really not going to be much of a problem. So go ahead and watch what he does, that way you kind of know exactly how to do it. And then he kind of went back to that one, and we're done with this.
Now I've loosened the lug nuts just a bit here. They're still pretty firm. Now I'm going to continue jacking up the vehicle.
So basically now we're going to do exactly what he said, which is raise up the jack. Do this carefully because sometimes the jack might want to slip. So when you do this, make sure that your jack is on a nice and level surface. Also make sure that the base is flush. That way it doesn't slide or anything like that, because that's the last thing that you'd possibly want. So keep doing that until the car is completely raised.
Okay, and I usually keep the handle down so it's out of the way. Now the tire is free. See, it's wiggling in the rim.
So now comes the fun part. We actually now get to remove the bolts. And now when we did the whole thing and standing on the wrench earlier, this helped us so that way we can actually finger loosen the nuts and bolts that are on there. So this will actually make our job way easier, and this will also help to take way less time than it normally would. So go ahead and make sure that these are all nice and finger loose, or finger tightened, sort of, so that way you can just simply remove the bolts. Okay, so now we're going to be removing the actual tire away from the axle. This part you need to be very careful of, and definitely watch your fingers. because the tire can be heavy, and if you don't use equal lift, it could fall over and it could land on you, and these tires can possibly break a limb. We don't want that to happen to you, so be careful when removing this. And then make sure you also have your spare tire nice and handy so that we can just go ahead and put it right on. So at this point, you're pretty much ready to go ahead and put on your spare tire. Same thing with this one. Be careful because it is heavy, and you also want to make sure that you get it lined up right. This one I think is magnetic, so it'll stay on that way, just to hold it up for a bit. And also be sure to check your speed indicators to tell you how fast you can actually go with this one tire. And then once you've taken care of all that, go ahead and put the tire onto the actual axle. Make sure everything lines up. And once everything is quite lined up, go ahead and put it on. And then you can go ahead and start putting your actual bolts on to secure the tire onto the axle. So at this point, you can go ahead and start putting the actual bolts on. Be sure to finger tighten these before you do anything else because you don't want to apply like ultimate torque yet because that could possibly hurt you. So after you got the bolts finger tightened, you can go over to the jack and pretty much just slowly lower the car to basically to the point where the actual tire is just touching the ground. That's really all I needed to do is just touch the ground. And then you can go ahead and take the actual wrench and start fully tightening the bolts. So after you have all the bolts tightened, this is where you can go back to the jack and you could slowly start lowering the car. Same thing as before, you got to do it slow because if you do it too fast, it could drop the car, it could damage the car, the jack could fly out and it could hit you, and that just would not be good. So do this slowly, and this right here needs to be taken with extreme caution. And after that, you are pretty much done with changing the tire. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything like that about today's project, go ahead and leave a comment below. For more videos, do not forget to subscribe. And also, if you want to see any more, then go on our channel and check it out.